Alright, I got a request to thin down a chunky piece of stone without using an Ishi stick. I thought I would do this now because if I don't, I'll never get around to it. And by Ishi stick, I think what that means is I'm not supposed to use indirect percussion flaker or Ishi stick like this for pressure. So the only way to do that I know of effectively is with billet work. So that's what this one is going to be. I'll get back to the Keokuk in a little bit. I still got the pieces sitting over here. I still got the Keokuk I'm going to work here. But like I said, if I don't get to this right away, it gets put on the back burner on my list of 84 other things to do. It's at least 80 items on the list. Alright, so the secret of doing this, two things. One, good billets. Number two, good stone. Okay, so let me see. Hopefully this is good stone. And it has to be a chunky piece, right? It's not fair to try to thin down something already thin. So let's get a chunky piece and see what happens. Yeah, the stone looks pretty good. This is raw, by the way, so don't be fussing that I didn't use raw. I think I've got like 15 minutes to do this video before someone gives me a phone call and I won't be able to get back to the video. Like I didn't get back to doing the Keokuk because I had to take care of an issue. Okay, is that thin enough? No? Okay. Let's see. Some of you might be saying, but wait, use natural tools, use antler. Why? Why use antler? Why? Is that the only thing you can get a hold of? No, it's the way they used to do it, man. I want to know how they used to do it back in the day. Yep. A lot of you new guys tuning in, all the new guys want to know how it was done back in the day. How to thin it down like they used to do it back in the day with no fancy techniques. What have I told you? I don't know how they did it. They did it with natural tools, man. That's how they did it. That's easy. What's the problem? Well, there are various ways to do it with natural tools. Like what? Like what? What ways? Well, there are other YouTubers that do it. That do all their napping with natural tools. You can tune into one of those channels. You can tune into my Allergic Hobbit channel and see me use natural tools. Of course, I use a lot of indirect percussion. Hopefully the volume is not getting all messed up because I'm napping and talking at the same time. Hopefully you can hear me. Yeah, I do have another channel called Allergic Hobbit where I use natural materials for almost everything. Well, for everything, actually. Unless you count some of the sandpaper and stuff as unnatural. Okay, is that thin enough? No? Let me see. Can a new guy do this? No, a new guy cannot thin down like this. This requires many hours of practice. Okay? You need aggressive, bold flaking. How do you prevent it from breaking? When you do bold flaking. That rhymes. You don't prevent breaks, you just manage your risk. Most of these hits, I could possibly be breaking it. It's very risky. This type of stuff is very dicey. There's many of these hits that could be breaking this material in half. But I take the risk, I manage the risk through experience, right? I know the limits of the stone in most cases. It gets more dicey as you get smaller and smaller. You need to change your amount of force and your angle of force as it gets smaller. You have to use less force than a bigger piece, yeah, but the speed tends to increase so that you can remove the flake before the biface knows what's happening. And those of you who watch the channel understand what that means. For you new guys, that means swiping out the tablecloth from underneath the place setting fast enough so the place setting doesn't move. Now what has that got to do with removing flakes? Actually everything. If you can use that same concept of removing that tablecloth really fast without disturbing the place setting, if you can do that, you know, just go ahead and try it. That same attitude and the same amount of intensity when removing that tablecloth is almost exactly the same as removing these flakes. It's just doing it fast enough so that it doesn't create a lot of shock. And but with the tablecloth example, you're overcoming friction. I studied friction as an engineering student. Once you overcome the initial threshold of friction, it tends to slide. Right? Well, once you overcome the initial strength of the stone, it tends to flake. The faster you can eliminate, or let's see, how do I say this? The faster you can overcome the strength of the stone, the better, so that the flake can continue. Right? This is a different consistency in this area, so it's going to be a problem, but I think to get the idea on this particular thinning, right? Now, I'm not going to ignore you guys who want to see how to thin with natural tools. Excuse me, pardon me. I don't know what's causing the allergic reaction right there. Something in the shop maybe, or in the air. What I'm looking for is some hammer stones. Are hammer stones good for thinning? Not really, no, but I'm going to initiate this with hammer stones in the beginning and then go to a billet. I'm going to use this billet here. It's also a mallet that I use for my indirect percussion flakers. Alright, let's see, I got a few more minutes to go. Let's see. This one is raw stone as well. It's not as good a quality as the other one. Good a quality? Gotta work on my grammar. The quality on this stone is not as good as the other stone. So we'll see what happens. I might snap this one in half by accident. Hopefully not. Why do I start with the hammerstone work first? Just my personal preference. It gets me into the stone faster. It can blast through cortex. I can hit difficult platforms without worrying too much about initiation. It'll initiate. Like this is a difficult platform because it's probably got a weird consistency. It's got a seam in there. It's got issues. It's got some cortex issues. Cracking as far as that goes. The hammerstone will get in there and do something, right? It's got to do something. What you're after is initiating those flakes. The hammerstone is not a perfect solution because it does shatter the edge a little bit. But it does have a lot of power to get some of those large thinning flakes to go. You want it to respond to your attempts. You want the stone to respond to your attempts at thinning. Hammerstones are really good for that. Okay, so I'm not really showing you or explaining the technique. I'm just showing you the technique. All right, because if I were to sit here and explain, I probably would mess it up and not be able to do it in time. I'm a little bit pressed for time here. I'm using a modern abrader to save time. You can use natural abraders. It takes longer. Some guys will be a little more fancy and work with the hammerstone to facilitate the process of creating platforms and make it easier for the abrader to do its job. But I don't do that. Okay, I'm opportunistic. What you're going to learn from me mainly is opportunistic until I get some more practice with the deliberate setting up of platforms. Okay, now I think it's time to switch over to a billet. I don't know if this is going to be strong enough. I don't have a large swinging billet made of antler. This is about as large as I have. So I tend to use the ice cream cone looking billet that I have. Let's see. Yeah, this one here. Moose antler with skull attached. I'm wearing it down very fast these days because I'm using it a lot, but I don't care anymore. It did cost me a lot of money, but I'll just use this one. I'm hitting really hard. I'm using a lot more force, it seems, than I would be using with a hammerstone. Yeah, it's not doing it. I don't want to keep hitting it because I'm going to pit it too much, so I'm going to go back to the hammerstone try to get a good flake. Should I use a softer hammerstone? Maybe, if I had one. Heavier hammerstone? No, not really. Let's see. It just doesn't seem like it would get in there. And I don't want to isolate that platform because I lose too much of the edge. Alright, so we got some issues with the cortex and tough areas. So I'm going to have to lose some width so I can develop some lower areas along the edge. You can call these platforms, you can call these opportunistic areas. whatever. I just had to lower that to see if I can run a flake into the mass from the tip this time instead of from the side. Side did not work very well. I will reposition the hammerstone where I think it would be of most benefit, and it's just through experience. Yeah, see, that didn't travel all the way. It would have if it wasn't concretey right there. And yes, concretey is a word. You heard it here first, folks. Okay. So how to get through the concretey stuff. That one actually made some sparks. You're just going to have to power through those concrete areas or tough areas. Hopefully you can eliminate them so you don't have them in your finished piece. But in some cases you just can't avoid them. They'll be part of your finished piece, and your finished piece will have step fracturing in it, and it's okay. Step fractures are not the end of the world. They just look a little nasty. Would I hit my finger on that one? Make sure you don't hit your fingers. Because then you'll have to stop napping. So yeah, I'm using the smaller billet now because I can generate more speed with a swing, and the speed is what I need right now, again, to remove these flakes before they know what's happening. And I'm just going to opportunistically, instead of attacking this first, I'm going to do some other stuff first and see how the edge develops before I attack that. Thinning other areas may set up another platform for me to attack that. This side flakes a lot better, so I'm going to take a few more flakes off of this side. I don't know if it's the billet that's flaking or the stone. You don't want to hit it too many times in the same spot, but this is the only spot that I have right here that's worth anything as far as a platform. Yep, I got a lot of little concretey areas, and that means trouble. And very aggressive strikes. Very, very aggressive. Very risky. I could be breaking this stuff at any time. It could snap. Are there strategies to prevent it from snapping? Oh yes. Can you be more cerebral about this? Cerebral? Or think about it more? Oh yes. Why don't I do it that way? Because it's boring. Why do I get bored? Let's see. That's a more difficult question than any of these napping questions. If I could figure out why I get bored, I could probably fix that issue. snap more professionally. Yeah. Too bad I'm not a professional napper. I'm just a video maker. Okay. Yeah, that's not going anywhere, is it? Alright, I'm going to smack this hard enough for its relatives to feel it. Okay. Nope. Yeah. That's how you thin down a piece that can't be thinned down. I don't know why, for some reason, instead of hitting there, I ended up hitting a spot over here. Or it did hit that, but it wandered. That's what you get with a soft billet. Sometimes it'll wander, or what I call wandering. But yeah, I don't even know if I could have thinned that down easily with modern tools. Let's see, do I have a... Yeah, I don't have another good chunky piece within 5 seconds. But you can see I just take opportunistic flakes to thin it down. I think this is a raw piece, even though there's a question mark there. It's high quality stuff. High quality stuff really makes a difference. Right, that's the understatement of the year. If you have high quality stuff, it makes your life so much easier. Is obsidian high quality stuff? Not necessarily. And that was a mistake. These bites that get taken out, those are mistakes. It's kind of the nature of the beast when you're trying to thin down a thick piece. Aggressive strikes are necessary. Sometimes you just bite into too much of the edge. Take a bite, and it gets more narrow. Makes your life a little more miserable, but I'm running out of time here. The takeaway is be very aggressive. I get the question so much, how do I thin, that I think I'm not being aggressive enough in my videos, or I'm not showing you aggressive tactics. Maybe I should be breaking more stuff, showing you that I work right on the edge of breakage. When I'm thinning, some nappers will tell you don't be wasting your material by being aggressive, but I think you end up wasting more material by not knowing the limits of it. I'm hitting right where I want to, but it's not going. You can do that with antler, but with hammerstone it's more dicey. Okay, so hopefully I get this thinned down enough. You don't need indirect percussion to thin these down. I think I know what the issue is with this billet. I'm going like this. Instead of hitting this way, I'm going like this by accident and hitting with this part instead of this part. or I'm moving the biface. The subconscious doesn't always know exactly what to do. I'm relying on my muscle memory, but I need some conscious input from what I'm seeing to adjust that muscle memory. Okay, so I gotta make sure I don't do this when I hit. I gotta stay this way. I'm hitting right where I want to, but these flakes are not going. So what do you do in that case? In that case, you risk the overshot. And it's not intentional that you get one. It's because you're risking it. That's why you're getting them. I'm risking overshooting when I'm trying some of this stuff. Like right now, I'm going to be risking the overshots just so I can get to these step fractures. And I'm just going to see what happens. Fortunately, that was good. And I am backing it up against my hand, so there's some resistance. I can't put too much power into these strikes because it'll snap the whole thing. Alrighty, so that's what you want. Not quite overshooting, but enough to eliminate all that mess. Okay. Alright, I hope that helps somebody. I got 2 out of 3. And from here you can pressure flake it. This one is not quite as thin as it could be, but I don't want to break it like this other one. One broken point is enough. But you see artifacts like this too, with the big old tall stacks. That's my excuse anyway. Alrighty.